Hello everyone, this is Atin Handuja, founder and CEO of Legal Foxes. Hope you all are safe and healthy. I welcome you to the Legal Foxes webinar sessions. Today we have our session on the topic how to draft a contract and what are the checklists to draft a contract. Today we have a special guest, Ms. Nirmala Patil. She is an advocate from India and practicing in Sweden since past 2 years. She is working as reader at Sports Academy Sweden. She has also participated as host at Job Fair by Lund University, Sweden. I welcome you to the session, ma'am.
Thank you, Atin. My name is Nirmala. So today I'm going to talk on topic checklist to draft contract. So could you please share me the PDF, please?
Yeah. Just a second, ma'am. So you guys can ask the questions in last. As soon as ma'am complete, you can ask your questions.
Yeah, first one. Yeah, this is. So basic elements of a contract. So as per the Indian Contract Act, there should be, every contract should contain these elements. These are the basic necessities, like parties should be there, 2 or more parties for the contract, and a party should offer and other party need to accept the contract, and there should be some consideration either in the form of a promise or else money, and the contract should be for some legal intention, for the legal intention, and it should not be for any family arrangements. So to form the contract, these 5 conditions need to be fulfilled. Next one, Atin. Yeah. Before we start to the checklist, I'm going to discuss a little bit on negotiation, because every contract need to go through this negotiation part. Whether you are a part of this negotiation, like sometimes the parties themselves negotiate the contract and pass the raw material for drafting. Sometimes you will be a part of a negotiation. So I would like to say a little bit on the negotiation part. So when you are part of a negotiation, so you need to find out who will be the audience of the contract. Like basically the parties. Then who will be next is who is using the contract, like clients, customers, suppliers of both the parties. And in case if there is a dispute on the contract, then obviously the legal professionals will be the audience of the contract. So first we need to take into account. So we are forming the contract to make them understand what is the basic elements or what are the terms and conditions. So we need to make it as simple as possible, and we are avoiding the legal terms as much as possible. So keep it simple, clear, so the audience of the contract can understand what is the intention of the parties. So when you're having a like negotiation for a contract, you need to have eye contact, but too much eye contact is not good, and too less is also not good. Like moderate, I can say. And then start note writing down the minute details, when the agreement is going to start and what are the terms and conditions, when it can be breach terms, or else who is paying how much money and what mode, other things you are going to make everything to be noted down. Then if you are some under some confusion, then you can ask for clarification from the both the parties. And active listening we are going to have when we are having a negotiation, like you are allowing other party to talk, and try to bring every situation under the contract, so you can expect what can happen if there is a breach, or if there is like a delay, if there is a force majeure, or if there is a like a act of God. So what we are going to do? So please keep these aspects before you start drafting a contract. So this is a negotiation, and you can start a negotiation with smile and low and slow voice. Yeah. Next, I think.
Just a second, ma'am.
So now we are going to move on today's discussion, checklist to draft contract. So every contract should have a title, like it may be rent, business purchase, or else employment contract. One second. Yeah. Anything. It should start with a title, so we can recognize what is the contract. So it should not be like anything unrelated to the topic. So when you're using the title of the contract, it should relate to the matter or the content of the agreement. And like there is no hard and fast rule that you should like use this as the term of the title of the contract. You can use anything like which is related to the subject, but it should be very short and simple and convenient to the parties. So next condition is next one is a date. Dates are like two. One is effective date and another one is enforcement date. Like when you're mentioning date, you should start with the first date, then month, then year. And when you're writing date, you should be careful, like you just like use a numerical type for the date. Then you start with the month as a January, March, April, like that, and then year in numerical type. So that would be better, I think, because otherwise in US, first it comes the month, then date, then year. But in England, it is like first, as usual, we use first date, then month, then year. So we don't know who is using the contract, like until like what extent it is going to be used. If it is international level, then like it may lead to the confusion. So we should be careful about it. So effective date is the date on which the contract is going to be like started, and the execution date is that date on which the contract has been drafted. So you can postpone the effective date from the execution date. Like today you are going to enter into a contract, and but you are postponing the start of the contract to other date. You can do that. So you, but when you're using two dates, then you specifically mention that this is the execution date, and that other one will be the on the like after the event or something. It will be the effective date. And if there are no two dates, then there is no necessity to add two dates. You can mention that as commonly this agreement is made on so and so date. So next one is parties names and address. So we need to identify who are the parties to the contract. Like first mention the name, then address. So we in India, we usually use a practice like it should start with Sri A, son of, aged. We use second as aged. What is the age of that person? Then uh, son of and resident of, with the PIN code. We use that. That is a usual norm in India we follow. So in case a business organization is a party to the contract, then we are using it as like such an ABC company is registered under the laws of India and having a registered office at so and so place with a pin code. And if the person who is representing the company, you are going to mention the name of the person as like a first person with a name, age, then son of, resident of. So the it can be identified like who is the authorized person for the company to enter into a contract. So in case if you are like not sure whether he is the person authorized by the company to enter into a contract, then you can ask for the board resolution from them, that person, to show whether you are having the authority to enter into a contract or not. I think it would act as some kind of cross checking, and it's a business norm. You usually there will be a board resolution for empowering a person as signatory to the contract. So next is recitals. It's a brief background to the contract. Like when you are entering into a contract, that which party has approached first, like what was the necessity to enter into a contract, and how they entered into contract, the situation, little bit background you are giving. So you can identify the intention of the contract. So recitals, usually it's optional. You can write or without recitals also it's good. But when there is a conflict, you are going to look into the recitals because it gives, like it acts as a preamble of the constitution. When there is a like conflict, we go back to the constitution, like that. It's a recitals act as a preamble to the constitution. So we are checking with what intention the parties have come together to enter into a contract. So this is a recitals. Then next comes the definition clause. Definition clause is also optional. Like it's your interpretation to the contract. You are adding in a definition. You are explaining and limiting the definition which the law says also, like what is the parties and what is the agreement. Like agreement, this is the agreement we are going to enter into, and any subsequent amendments or templates uh, after that also covers as the agreement. This definition you are adding to the definition clause of the contract. So other anything what amounts to parties, or whether they are included with their successors, administrators, etc. You are going to mention here. So one more thing is that we have a practice when adding to the parties names, we in bracket we use, it includes the parties, administrators, successors, and assignees. But the recent trend is like we are going to remove this because as usual we have a assignment clause in the contract. So I don't think it is needed now. So like we are making it simple as possible. So the trend is we are going to remove the successors and assignees words from the parties clause. So it's only the just a simple parties name, address. So next is terms and conditions. So what are the terms and conditions of the contract, and if there is a goods or services or employment, and what is the place of work, and what goods, what is the product we are like who is delivering, and what are the rights of the parties, what quality it should contain while delivering, how they are going to receive, and what mode payment, how the payment can be made. These all clauses we are referring under this mentioning under this terms and conditions clause, like by mentioning A, B, C, D. So it's good to have numbering for the clauses, every clauses. And when we go for like drafting, I should say like you should use. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
But here something is showing like your speaker is not working. Please check your connection. Okay. Yeah. Terms and conditions. How payment be made and what will be the consequences of delay. So all the rights and parties you are mentioning here by sub clauses like A, B, C. It as one, and be careful about the font size. You are mentioning for the headings, similar font with like a bold and other thing, and maintain the same format for the till end of the contract. It should not be like fancy, so keep it simple as possible, and it leads to clarity of the contract, and so that any layman can understand the contract. So, rights and duties of both the parties we are mentioning here. Next comes the notice. In case of there is a breach, or else if there is a delay, or the quality of the product or a service which the contract is about is not good, we are mentioning that you are going to notify me. You are going to intimate by me sending a notice, so I can rectify it, or I can give an answer like that. So what kind of a notice like you are giving me, uh, and what address? What address you are going to mention here, and how, like whether you are if there is a delay on my part to send the goods or something, you are intimating by sending me to the my address, whether you are serving the notice in person or else RPAD, so that they, even the other party should need some kind of acknowledgement whether the notice has been served to go for next action. So be careful when you are mentioning the notice part, because in person, if you are you can ask the person to acknowledge that he has received the contract. That part, acknowledgement and the address you need to look into, and what will be the format, because the legal notice format only we are going to use here, that need to be taken care in under the notice clause. Then termination. Termination is when the relationship under this contract is going to end. Like it may be the contract may be like for term wise, like 1 year or 2 year in case of an employment contract. When the contract is employment contract is for 1 or 2 years, then it is going to end after the 1 or 2 years. So like that, it is going to end by fulfilling that terms and conditions. Or if there is a breach, you have not delivered the goods, or if you have not done the obligation under the contract, then you are going to like commit a breach under the contract, so I can terminate the contract. So there are three kinds mainly. Like one is the contract stands terminated by fulfilling the terms and conditions of the contract, and not fulfilling also gives the rise to uh, termination of the contract. And third is, as we are observing this corona, so it's like some conditions, like some contracts are going to end and some contracts are not, depending upon the conditions of the situations of the contract, act of God we can say, or else like natural consequences which are not under the control of the parties. So but before drafting this clause, we need to be careful about like elaborate as much as possible. So you are going to cover all the future events, foresee, you can like expect to what we can put under the contract. Can you on? No, I think. Next one.
shall I move forward to next slide?
Yeah. So next comes confidentiality. I think you know about the non-disclosure agreements, that are the separate agreements which we enter for the like software licensing or else some other related software field contracts, NDA. And a clause we can mention here there is like parties may feel that we are not going to disclose the terms and conditions to the other parties or the public. So you can mention a clause in a normal contract also that this contract should be confidential and we are not going to disclose it. It is allowed. We are going to mention it as non-compete. Non-compete is usually when it is like a business purchase and employment contract when the trade secrets or trade secrets are disclosed to the one party when you are like an employer. Um, when you are an employee, the most of the confidential information has been passed on to you, and you may like after getting okay, I am going to leave this company. I can start the business of mine. You are not going to do that, and you are prohibiting that party by putting the non-compete clause. You have received and you are going to keep it confidential and you are not going to open the business in the my city or else after some like you can mention the period like 2 years you are not going to start the same business or in my area where the my company business is located. You can't do that. So that is a non-compete clause. It acts in case of a companies also when there is a master like service agreement is there. Severability. So when the contract is for legal intention and we are going to say that after some passing of a law or else some event, a part of the contract becomes illegal or else not enforceable and that part is severable from the other part of the contract, then you are going to mention that in case if that such event happens, then you are going to leave that part and other part of the which is valid, you are going to enforce it. It remains as it is for the, so severability clause saves you from completely destroying of the contract. Yeah. So another one I forgot to add is the entire agreement clause. You can mention it as entire agreement. Like entire agreement is a entire agreement clause is a clause which supersedes the earlier discussions, negotiations, and whether you have like a letter of intent, anything you have entered into before the formal entry of this agreement, you are going to do that. This forms the entire and the only one agreement between the parties, and you are mentioning this entire agreement clause that earlier discussions and we are superseding and we are not taking into account of that earlier discussions, and this forms the only one agreement between the only one agreement and under which we are performing the duties. So you are not referring to the earlier discussions. So it says the entire agreement clause saves you from the like a letter of intent or else earlier discussion part. So waiver, if you are providing a company or other party like a chance to waive, if have a right, there is a some like a person has delivered to you a product but little bit the quantity is less than what is agreed, but still you are going ahead with the contract, then you are giving a chance to other person to continue the contract, plus you are waiving your right to ask for it. And that you can make it like it's like instead of completely destroying the contract, like in case he has delivered a little low quality or else less this one, and you are adjusting somehow with the contract, like you are reducing the price or something, then you are waiving your right, that you can mention it and you can go ahead with the contract. So next is indemnification. Indemnification is the party agreeing that other party that in case of any loss or damage happens, then you are going to pay the loss, make the good the loss, or else you are paying some certain amount to the other party. Uh, so you are indemnifying the person, the other party, but how far you can make it as, that should be like made it uh, certain. I mean that in case if there is like a third party is injured or impacted by your agreement, and till to what extent you can indemnify the other person, like if it is a personal injury or something, you cannot put into the boxes of a contract, like only I am giving it to 10,000 if there is uh, like harmful condition. But in case of a personal injury or personal damage, it can go beyond that, and the indemnification clause doesn't apply here. Force majeure, the force majeure clause is right now under discussion everywhere in legal field, like because of the corona, most of the contracts are like non-fulfilled, or how we are going to, and this is a Bombay High Court, and I have seen the recent some courts of India also, they have taken a very good attitude, like if it is essential like essential products which is allowed under the lockdown also, and there is no bar to carry on the contract, so you can't enforce a force measure in case your product or service falls under the essential service but in case if you don't fall under the essential service, then you can, like you may go ahead with the force measure and come out of the contract.
Ma'am, I can't hear you. Devshri, can you please unmute, ma'am?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, force measure clause. So next is assignment. Assignment is like whether are you assigning the contract to the other party, are you allowing that or you are not allowing. If there is a change of control, then you can mention that if there is I am not allowing this contract to be performed by other person, and if there is a change of control, you can mention a condition that you are entering into a contract with the two companies that have entered into a contract, and that other company has been acquired by the person and who is like a little bit of competing business to your business. So you can mention in that, you can bring that situation under the contract and with the assignment clause, like if the business has been acquired by the competing business, my competing person, then I'm not going to permit this, and I can repudiate this contract. Like that clauses also you can mention under the assignment. Change of control also you can mention here. So representation and warranties, when you are entering into a contract, you are representing yourself that you have a valid authority to enter into a contract. In case basically it should start with Like it happened with a Mohori Bibi versus Dharmadas Bose. He has represented, you may not me sometimes like a minor can enter into a contract. If it is a minor, you can understand that he is a minor, but like teenagers, you won't be under, sometimes you will be under a this conception that he is a major and you can enter into a contract. But before entering into a contract on behalf of the company, you should if are when you are posing yourself that you have right to enter into a contract and that has been authorized by the party. So that is a representation, and you are selling some kind of goods or providing services or products. So you have right to do that. You have a particular license, or else you have opened your business as per the law, and you have a right to do that. Warrant is that warrant is the product which I am delivering to you is of a good quality, and in case if there is some low quality you find, then you are going to return me and I can replace it, or else I can repair it and I give back this is a simple example I'm saying. And this is a warranty you are giving. So in this, so if you mention like a product I'm delivering, and if you found something mistake, or else the product is not good, then you are going to say that this by sending a notice, the product is not of standard quality what you have mentioned in the contract, and you have already sent a notice and intimating. The party can sit like, okay, I can do this later also, because he's as per the contract only, he is not saying no, but I will do. But to what extent? Like when so your business is under under harm if you keep on waiting that I will do. You are mentioning the timing also. If I send you a notice that product is not good and the product is of a low quality, I will send you a notice within this time. You are going to return or something, replace or repair it. You are going to mention the contract in the contract also, the time to replace or remedy the loss. So jurisdiction, you can mention like if there are parties from two states, you can choose laws of one state. In case it's usually in India, it's no such problem may arise, because the Indian Contract Act, if it is an international law, then you are going to mention that which uh, laws, like we are following the this country's law like if you are entering a contract with England and India, or else whose laws will, is it my country laws or some other? But you are not supposed to choose, like if I'm a country, if I'm from India, and if you other parties from US, I'm going to choose from laws of Italy will be applicable to the my contract. No, some sort of a connection should be there to the parties and the performance of the contract. So this is under the jurisdiction, and we can mention it.
I'm
This will,
sorry to interrupt, ma'am. This session will end in 1 minute, and after 1 minute, we have to move to second link.
okay, sure. Sure, shall I close right now, or?
Ma'am, you can continue. It will automatically end.
Okay, okay, okay. So this here is one more clause you can put under this as a governing law. Governing law, then that is what, like earlier said, which country's law will be applicable to the contract. You are going to mention stamp duty. Every India, every state has its own stamp duty law. So your contract document should be stamped by state authority, so to be valid. So stamp duty and signature, both the parties should put a signature, and it should be witnessed by two witnesses. The two witnesses, oh, it's going.
Please continue, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay. So I'm giving you a little bit tips to avoid.
It's
Uh,
about to end.
okay, okay. We